But I think there was another thing, and I think it came in two phases, and that's the one that liberalism, Western liberalism itself, became quite utopian. That, in the 1980s, it was understood that, even within liberalism, you had to have trade-offs between these various different things and these various different sort of objectives, and you couldn't have everything all at once. But I think what started happening is the idea was you could pursue all these goals to the nth degree, and somehow this would usher in the millennium. Everyone had to have the most free labor market, the lowest tariffs, the sort of and I think that came a cropper in with the invasion of Iraq, where you tried to sort of impose liberal democracy by force on Iraqi society, and it's whatever the blunders were, it turned into a massive disaster and a forever war. And I think the suspicion of many Americans today is that the war was kept going in order to sort of, enrich your sort of military industrial complex. So that was the first phase of utopianism, which I suppose would be called neoliberalism by some people as well. But what you've moved into now is the same idea of you no longer, the sort of Western societies are going from one blunder to another, because there's no longer this understanding of the trade-offs that have to occur in sort of policy making or whatever. So you see this with the sort of energy policy. It's not like, yes, reducing sort of greenhouse gas emissions is good, but there are other considerations that have to apply, like, our economic growth or can, the prosperity of people, or
the cost of electricity.
The cost of electricity, do you want an electricity bill that's twice as high as it was previously or not, So increasingly you sort of see utopian thinking within the Western elites where, or with the COVID lockdowns, okay, obviously minimizing the spread of this virus is a good thing, but what are the trade-offs in locking down the entire society? So sort of chasing after one utopian objective after another, disregarding all the trade-offs and that sort of thing. So I think that's where we are now, is this inability, and another example is obviously sort of this illegal or unfettered immigration that's driving Western electorates mad because their governments are refusing to do anything about it. Mm. And again, it's ignoring the trade-offs that have to be made. And one of the trade-offs is, it's been well understood in European politics for decades, is that when European elites go soft on immigration, the voters shift to the right to try and send a message to the elites. And when the elites listen, then they shift back to the center again. But what you see this time is almost that these Western elites don't care. That even if this leads to the rise of, right-wing parties, which the elites themselves, describe in the sort of apoplectic terms as fascist or whatever, these elites will refuse to moderate on the immigration policies, even if the very predictable consequence is going to be an increase of the vote share of what is called the far right. So that's where I think we are. Another just a last point on that is that, Max Weber wrote a very famous essay called the Politics as a Vocation, and he said that in politics there essentially there's a tension between what is called what he called the politics of ultimate ends and the politics of responsibility. And the politics of ultimate ends is that sort of, you must you must do what is right, and let and as long as that's fine, then let the whatever the consequences are flow from that. And the ethics of responsibility are you must have a sense of what the consequences are going to be of your actions, and also your failure to act. And again, I think you see this in what is described, what you see in a lot of progressive politics in the West, is that the sort of politics of ultimate ends is sort of overriding, and the politics of responsibility is not being, there's not enough attention paid to it. So like with crime, it's unpleasant to lock people up and to be tough on crime, but you have to do it, otherwise people live in fear in their societies. But for some reason, there's a sort of fear of acting on certain, well, I mean, you'd say there's a fear of acting, but they were willing to lock down entire societies with the COVID vaccine, with the COVID virus. But there's a sort of great reluctance to act against crime or act against, illegal immigration or whatever. So I suppose that's how it all ties together.